Oh, well. I'm not Casey, but I am Chev. We are back. I'm here with two of the most knowledgeable minds in the space, two of my favorite people to interact with. Jeremiah, how are we doing today, brother?
Baby, we got the blood flowing, man. We were just talking dirty about Drake May, and I am hyped.
Joseph, how are we doing today, brother?
I'm doing great. It's a bye week for Georgia, so I have a little bit more time tomorrow. We're gonna, hang out, and have even more time to prepare for Sunday. So excited.
Let's go. Big win for the Dogs last weekend. Yes.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. Exciting stuff. I can't co-sign that for various reasons that we don't have to get into right now, mostly being related to my ties to Gainesville. But this is Bet On It, the show with the alternate perspective to give you the most chances, the most alternative plays and chances to put money in your pocket. So we're going to get into what our favorite plays are this week. Jeremiah, why don't you lead us off with a close call from last week before we get into this week's slate?
Hey, we got close calls. We got winners and hitters. This week, I've got a hitter, and it was just simply A.J. Brown, anytime touchdown score. Alternate A.J. Brown, 90 yards. Jordan Addison on the other side of the play. Alternate 80 yards receiving. We see the cohesion with Wentz and Addison, and it's kind of funny. First-round talent, Jordan Addison. Third year, a lot of wide receiver 1 weeks just on his own. And people can't really separate that. So you can take advantage of these yards for Jordan Addison. 5 paid, 116, so plus 2,200 odds. And very exciting. The sweat came down. There was that final lob up to A.J. Brown, which put him over. He was something like 77 or 73 yards, and he got the last gainer on that last play to hit the 90. So very excited about that. And it helps us play on for the next week.
Well, I mean, you've been the golden goose this year because I have been the opposite of whatever the golden goose. I don't like the dirty, like the dead swan.
The dirty duck.
Yeah, the dirty duck. So I mean, you're carrying the units right now. No Diddy. But with National Tight End Day coming up this week, it's a very exciting time because I don't know what it is. Like the people who are conspiracy theorists, they're like, hey, the NFL's rigged. Every National Tight Ends Day serves as validation because it never disappoints. Last year, we had tight ends going absolutely bananas. And this year, we have the opportunity again. So Jeremiah, why don't you lead us into the ticket that you put in for National Tight Ends Day this week, and we'll let Joseph give his perspective on where he wants or where he leans on this.
Okay, so last week we talked about the play. It was a Quinshon Judkins for the alt rush and touchdown combined with Breece Hall alt rush and the touchdown. Joseph, you advised us that you liked the QJ play. You didn't really love the Breece Hall play. You were right on that for the ticket that I drew up. It was busted. It was broken up. Had I just leaned towards the singular wider distribution play of Quinshon Judkins and the alt yards, I would have been there. He had 3 touchdowns. So beautiful day. Great call by you. Very sharp analysis. And I want to know what would be the viable. And I was asking what was the viability on that for 2 non-related plays. So now in something like this, I know you talk about route-based heroes or Coach I Was Open, where you can end up with a little bit of a squeeze extra for some tight end boost or sort of touchdown boost. But speaking of tight ends here, what's the viability of telling a story for touchdowns and or alt yards in combination with one another? So what I have, this is $5, pays almost $1,100.
Pretty good.
5 players to score a touchdown. I've got Kyle Pitts anytime touchdown. These are all tight ends. Beautiful matchup against Miami. I'm not going to talk about the disgusting, beautiful, exotic tickets that I have with Greg Dulcich. All right. But the odds are just something else. But we're not going to subject the people to that. Anytime Kyle Pitts touchdown. George Kittle, National Tight End Day. And last week he busted. There's a bounce back there. And then we just heard Purdy is out, Pearsall is out. Colson Loveland, with the idea of Cole Kmet being entirely out of the way, we'll get to the Bears-Ravens a little later. 49.5 over under. I love Colson Loveland. Cade Otton, another one. No Mike Evans. No Chris Godwin. Bucky Irvin's still out. And we have maybe the concession stand guy could roll down and line up at receiver for the Buccaneers. That's how desperate they are. And then, of course, Tyler Warren, who has just been, especially in the first half, hitting a lot of good metrics. So that's 5 players that I have anytime touchdown. 550 pays almost $1,100. What are your thoughts on this, the viability, and how far is too far? And what do you make of something like this?
Yeah, I think that like in general, right? So in general, I think touchdown parlays are, and I just want to make this super clear, in general.
Yep.
They're a fishy play, right? Like they are meant for the fish, right? In general, because they're so hard to hit, right? Like touchdown parlays are just so hard to hit. They are uncorrelated. They are messy. They are just, I mean, unless you have really good evidence that whatever you're doing, there's real, like a mathematical advantage. Like this player has this X% chance to score a touchdown, and this in Vegas, we can say it now, FanDuel or DraftKings has this exact probability of them scoring a touchdown, and my probability is higher. And then you can compute that, because you can't, at least with an uncorrelated play, you can compute that, right? You can multiply these probabilities and get a fair parlay on this. In my opinion, that's the only time you should really be doing touchdown parlays. Sometimes I'll offer a touchdown parlay in my Substack, and usually it's compiled of specifically like Coach I Was Open and route-based heroes, because I know for a fact, like I have proven it, they have about a 12% better chance of scoring a touchdown than a standard player of similar attributes, right, to those players. Yep. I do think that it's a fun parlay. Don't get me wrong. And it absolutely could hit, especially on National Tight Ends Day. I think Colson Loveland's a sneaky good play. I think that's he's stepping into the starting tight end role in an offense that probably is going to score a lot against the Baltimore Ravens defense. Plus 280 is a really good value, in my opinion. I don't have a touchdown model that says that it is, but it does feel like a good value. I think George Kittle's a good value. It's George Kittle on National Tight Ends Day. Why not? Kyle Pitts, I think he is, if I were to pick any player in the game to score a touchdown outside of like Bijan, I'd probably pick Kyle Pitts. Because the Miami defense is really bad on the interior. I mean, they're really bad overall. They're like historically bad. But they are extremely bad against tight ends, and they're extremely bad on the interior. I think that Kyle Pitts could have a field day, and that could include a touchdown. So like to me, like it's not like any of the individual plays. I don't necessarily think they're bad. I think that they're fine. It's just you're stacking a lot of things. You're just stacking a lot of things that you need to happen. Sometimes an NFL team might not even like score 17 points. Like they might just win in an ugly way, and then like you might just not get the touchdown you need. So in general, I'm against TD parlays unless you have a clear mathematical advantage on these players.
So now question to that, because I have the 5 tight ends that I have a play on for touchdown, and the path it's let's just say it's a fool's errand to expect the outcome. It's a fun ticket, but it's a fool's errand in process. But Joseph, on that, let's say it's Pitts, Kittle, I love Loveland, Otton, and I didn't mean to say love Loveland. It just worked out like that. Tyler Warren. What about alt receiving yards or alt receptions? Is there something that I could be more informed on a ticket where I want to stack tight ends, but maybe I don't chase touchdowns? Maybe I chase alternate receptions or alternate receiving yards. Is that more?
It's the same thing, right? It comes down to like, do you think you have a mathematical advantage, right? And like, does it come down to like, okay, what is their WOPR? What is their PWOPR, right? What is their target share, air yard share, all that good stuff? What's the expected yardage? And get like combining all of that, and then say, okay, I expect them to get X amount of receiving yards. What's their actual over under? And then if you have a decent edge there, you probably have an edge at the alternates too. And if you really want to get fancy, you could build out a model that predicts the whole range of outcomes. I've tried to do that. It does a pretty good job. I share it usually in the Discord. I only run it on Saturdays because lines get posted so late. But the idea that to me, the only times you should really be doing these things is when you think you have it, when you like know you have a clear, real advantage in kind of these uncorrelated plays. Because again, it's like maybe you have a 5% edge. Let's just say you have a 5% edge across the board. Yeah. That doesn't mean that all 5 are going to hit. It means that, over a period of 500 bets, maybe you beat out Vegas 5% of the time. Right? That's what that means. So it's like, how much edge do you have on each of these plays? And then stacking that all together, how much edge do you have on a parlay? And then if that number is not really good, I mean, it kind of depends. It's a fun $5 bet, but it shouldn't be something that like you have a lot of faith in.
You said if the number is really good, you mean the S&P plus odds?
Your percent edge on it, right? Okay. So like if you say your model says it happens, 30% of the time, and Vegas's implied probability is 20% of the time, that would be a 10% edge, right? Like you have a 10% edge on that. I don't know if that's the official.
Well, long and short, my model is just going to say that this one's going to hit just this time once. That's all.
Yeah.
Hey, Joseph, we're talking about some hits and misses. Did you have a miss, a near miss?
Well, yeah, I think it was a fun one to talk about from last week, but it was a published bet in my Substack. But Daniel Jones 250, Tyler Warren 70, Colts win by 7.5. I had Daniel Jones attempts and Jonathan Taylor over rushing, which was 5 legs. I'm generally against it, but when I have like attempts with yards, I'm like, if I have a good reason, then I'm okay with that. But goodness, we missed it by 1 yard. We missed it. We missed Tyler Warren. He had 69 yards, which was really nice. But I needed 70, and he didn't get there. That would have paid out quite a lot, and it hurt missing. It hurt missing.
Hey, question on that with Tyler Warren. Do you notice anything to how he starts off very hot in game script? The first script of 15.
Yeah, he has a really good scripted share of predicted targets. He has a really good share of predicted targets, and in general, I've spoken with other people. They've been smashing his Q1 alts every week, right? They've been smashing his Q1 alts every week because the Colts seemingly really want to get him the ball early. So yeah, there is something to that. Like he is like the design target on at least like 3 of their first 15 plays the last few weeks. Yeah.
It's just very interesting because we don't have that. Like if we think of a tail event play for the Colts and the Titans, and I know this is a little teaser for later with Daniel Jones, you're very high on him, but in thinking of, okay, what Colts and what would be a tail event, a wider distribution for somebody like Tyler Warren, that 120-yard receiving game or 100-yard receiving game, you're just not quite fully sure on that because he kind of parks it after that first quarter or that first half. It's the oddest thing because it's not like he's a magician and just can't play.
Yeah, it is really strange. Like game plans are weird, coaches are weird. Even Shane Steichen, who I am like the biggest fan of, like he might be my favorite coach. Like he's like a top 5 coach for me. I think that he's just, for some reason, coaches are weird. They're very particular about how they want to use their players.
Absolutely. I think this is really sharp, but I definitely want to make sure that we touch on one of these events with a guy who's not going to be in anybody's top 5 from a coaching standpoint. And that brings us to Dolphins and Falcons. Okay. So Jeremiah, you have some questions as far as we talked about Bijan. Joseph has already alluded to the fact that Kyle Pitts might be the second most likely person to score on the Miami Dolphins this week because they are the 5th highest rate of middle of the field open defense, which tends to be good for tight ends. And we already know that they can't stop a nosebleed on the ground. So why don't you lead us into one of the plays? You've already alluded to it a little bit because of National Tight Ends Day. We're going to get down and dirty with Dirty Dulcich. right? So why don't you lead us into your thought process and how we got there with Darren Waller heading to IR this week?
And it's an alternate play. And Chev, I was sending it to you. I think I was sending it into our group. Just the idea of Greg Dulcich in this, when I was doing the 5 tight end tickets touchdown, which will hit because my model, just one time it'll hit.
That's all you need.
I had Greg Dulcich, him, if you punch him and Kyle Pitts in for a touchdown each, like $5 punched out, $200 back. Great plus odds. Again, it's a risky game. It's a fool's errand to expect. But with the idea of it's something alternate priced, I just noticed anything that you patch in a tail event, it was plus 1,400 that I got the other day for Greg Dulcich. And it's just wild how you just, like Emerald Lagasse, bam, you throw that in there. And if you just get that and you have these other events like Bijan, alt 90 or alt 100 rushing, things that you're more sure of, you're more cocksure of, it seems to just boost the odds, the plus numbers plenty. So questions all around. And then I want you to cook, Joseph. Is Bijan priced in? Is there a spot where we can get him value still? You remember pulling to the right from the middle. Tyler Algier, I know we've been monitoring his practice, but would he be the spot to go towards some alt lines and find value? And then is there value, do you think, in Greg Dulcich? How would you want to cook something like this? Do you trust Jalen Waddle at all to be seen by Tua?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is that, like, this is just an absolute amazing spot for both rushing and receiving for Bijan. Like, I am all over his, like, 200 plus all-purpose yards. Like, that is, like, kind of where I'm at with it. Funny enough, like, I was looking, I live in a state in which I cannot go, I can't bet at DraftKings or FanDuel. I drive on Sundays and go bet. But I was just looking at, like, Underdog just to get an idea of, like, where they had things. And they had his 200 plus listed at 5x. And I was like, yeah, that seems like that's like basically plus 500 odds.
Yeah.
And I put a few just bets in on it. And within an hour, they moved it to 250. They moved his 200 plus like all purpose yards to like 2.5x instead of 5x. They cut his price in half, which to me, that's what it should have been. Like, I think that this is like, it just couldn't be a better spot for him. Like, he's going to be going up against financial analysts on the other side, playing for the Dolphins. And I don't know, y'all. I know y'all have watched Bijan. I've watched Bijan. He's better than a financial analyst. And I think he's going to absolutely kill. The biggest issue I have, and I don't even know if it's an issue, but the biggest issue about this is that I don't know what to make of this Dolphins offense, and I don't even really count. Like, last week's a little bit of a fluke. Like, they're playing, I think they're playing at Atlanta. Like, it's in a dome. Like, they're going to be better as far as weather is concerned. They're not going to have to deal with what they dealt with last week. But I think that like the Dolphins are a team that I believe they're going to struggle in this game. The Tua has been very bad against pressure. The Falcons get some of the most pressure in the NFL. The Tua has been very bad against cover 3. The Falcons run more cover 3 than basically any other team in the NFL. I just think this is a tough spot for them. That doesn't mean they can't score a touchdown. I think any team in the NFL can score a touchdown any week, right? That can happen anytime. But I just think that there might be less scoring on the Dolphins side than maybe we would hope for in betting a touchdown. Sorry, what?
No. Finish your point. I didn't have.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, like, with the Dolphins, like, potentially struggling really, really bad on offense, it just makes me way more interested in the Falcons side of this game. But that I worry that, like, for me, like, like, I'm also learning and doing this and everything. I'm not like an expert and like a perfect person at this, but learning like how like the Dolphins look awful, but that doesn't mean they're always going to play awful. Right. And I think that the idea that they can keep this game close absolutely exists. But I also think that the idea that they get blown out in this game absolutely exists. So I think that's just something to consider in your bet. Like, what does a Dulcich touchdown mean Like that's something like think about the story, right? We talk like trying to get back to like the fundamentals of what we're doing. What is the story in Dulcich getting that touchdown? Right?
Well,
Is it a close game? Is it a blowout? What is this game?
I do have a question on that because I don't want to deter or throw the scent off to the listeners, the watchers, the ball watchers, right? Ball watchers, ball knowers. Greg Dulcich, I told you plus 1,400. And as I looked at the odds now, live, right now, Hirathi, plus 550 anytime. So it's gone from 1,400 to plus 550.
That's a big change.
Am I a market maven?
You might be.
And two, I had to double check that I didn't punch in 2 touchdowns. I think it was a day ago where I got this. And thank God it was an anytime touchdown. I do have it. I can post it on X, promise proof. But hey, I guess the Dulcich, do you read anything to a almost?
That's great for you, is what I read. That is fantastic for you to get like. I mean, you're gaining. That's a huge edge, right? Like if they asked you for a cash out right now, you'd probably be profitable. So I think that the idea that change for you is awesome, but plus 550 is a different story, right? Like plus 1,400, that's basically free money, and for a starting tight end, right? For what is going to be a starting tight end
on National Tight Ends Day, Joseph.
On National Tight Ends Day, plus 1,400 is like free money. I mean, plus 550 is still really good odds, but it's not. Like plus 1,400, that's like the backup, the backup tight end. That's what it's priced as. So I think that that definitely matters into how you would kind of assemble these tickets and think about this.
So basically, the takeaway here is if you can get to somewhere around a prop that is Tua throwing more like 1 interception or more, him being absolutely atrocious versus cover 3, and we can find a Bijan 200 plus yards. Now we are just 3 weeks removed from Rico Dowdle rushing for 200 yards, and they've allowed at least 130 yards from scrimmage to a running back on 3 separate occasions this year with JT, Rico Dowdle, and another one escapes me right now. But that's not the important thing here. Is that the Dolphins are horrible. This is an opportunity for us to take advantage of what is a really quickly self-correcting market between Joseph Substack and Jeremiah. The people finding out about Jeremiah and his prowess for putting in tickets. So we don't have to spend too much time here. Did y'all have anything else that y'all wanted to discuss with this Falcons Dolphins?
No, I would just add Darnell Mooney is a route-based hero, and that usually is a really good thing for you want to be a route-based hero when you want to score a lot of fantasy points. So
if you're not familiar with the route-based heroes, please make sure that you're either tapped in on Joseph's Patreon or on the Substack where he drops it early, and then the Coach I Was Open. These are all integral reads if you're looking to educate yourself and learn and just find something outside of the norm. Somebody's telling you to play, we can get plus 114 over here. Well, that's boring. Okay. All right. We're going into like ball gags and safe word territory.
I want plus 11,400.
Yeah. I want to get a 4-leg plus 15,000 parlay. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And when we do that, we're going to talk about Ravens Bears. And Joseph, before we went live, you mentioned that this is one of your favorite plays of the week. So I'll let you wax poetic about what you love about this game.
Yeah, I think that so another thing is like Judah Fortgang, he at Throw the Damn Ball, he is very big on this PFF betting show. They're really big on this. And I was big on this before I even watched their show. And like knowing that like we're all on this is kind of scary because that usually means it fails, but also a lot of sharps are on this. And the idea is that this Ravens team, like even if they're getting a lot back. They're coming off a bye, they're getting a lot back. But they are 7-point favorites against the 4-2 Chicago Bears. And this Bears team has been pretty decent, right? This Bears team is not awful. I know that a lot of their EPA has been generated off of turnovers, but they currently rank as like the best team in the NFL against wide receivers in coverage, right? Like since week 3, they're the best team in coverage against wide receivers. And they've had a pretty decent run defense. I mean, it hasn't been amazing. Like they're not great at yards before contact, but they have been getting their tackles afterwards. They are pretty decent. And this Ravens defense wasn't exactly great when they were healthy. This was not a great defense before the injuries. So I just don't see a world where, and Lamar doesn't play defense. I should add that as well. But I don't see a world where this Ravens team is instantly better than they used to be. And I think that 7 points is just a lot. Like 7 points is the spread in the Atlanta-Miami game. And I think like everyone not everyone thinks it, but everyone is like pretty high on Atlanta in this game.
Yes.
This is the same spread, and one team is like 1-5 and the other team's 4-2. And I know that the Ravens have gone through quite a lot, but even before they were going through a lot, Lamar was not like setting the world on fire. Like, I just want to be super clear about that. Like he was doing great in EPA per play, but he was turning the ball over, right? He was not seeing the field well. I think Sam on the Check the Mic show, he went into this quite extensively, but they were not like setting the world on fire before all the injuries, and now they're coming back, and this spread is as if no injuries had ever happened. Like imagine a world where no injuries happen. This is probably a similar spread to this. So to me, I think that this is a great tail event spot to say, well, what if you are what your record says you are, right? What if you are? And then the Ravens defense is still bad, just like we kind of are expecting. And they play a lot of man coverage. And so this is like, to me, this is a perfect tail event spot because there are three things that have in my opinion, outsized probability of happening. And that is that the Bears win this game by at least 3, right? So I put -3.5, right? But so 4. Caleb Williams has a good day passing. So say 300 yards, give or take. Rome Odunze is the manslayer on this team. So Rome Odunze, say 110, 100, 110. And you can get that at like 55-1 right now. And to me, that is like the perfect SGP in this kind of contrarian play. I'm not saying that it's the most likely outcome. The most likely outcome in any NFL game lately has been for there to be less yards and for it to kind of be boring. I feel like that's been like the play this year, is that a lot of games have suppressed yardage, all that good stuff. But this Ravens defense is bad enough to allow this Chicago Bears offense with Ben Johnson, Rome Odunze, and maybe a Caleb Williams that's not dealing with a lot of pressure. He has a really good predicted pressure matchup to get the ball downfield, score a lot, and probably win this game. I just think that the spread should be a lot closer to a pick 'em, and we're getting 7 points for the Bears. So that's the basic idea. Hopefully that made sense.
And just to add a little tint, little color to the picture, I'm going to share here. Jeremiah, I'm going to grab it real quick. Just Rome Odunze is by far and away the Bears' best. Whoa, did I just screw everything up? Okay, maybe I did. What the world? What just happened? Okay. Yeah.
Right. Rome Odunze is by far the Bears' best option against a man-heavy defense. And just saying, the corners for the Ravens have not been playing super well. I think Marlon Humphrey is in like the bottom 10 corners, like in football right now. Historically, he's been pretty good. This year, not so much. And there's just a world where Rome Odunze goes off in this game. And because of Rome Odunze and because of Caleb Williams, the Bears win this handedly.
Yeah, I like that because I've got a ticket where it's a SGP, and we were talking about Bears Ravens pre-show, and I'm glad we're talking about it here. I do see, Joseph, that Zay Flowers is a route-based hero, so we love that. It's exciting for the Lamar return. I do have the ticket is Rome Odunze alt receiving 90 yards. Colson Loveland anytime touchdown to the prior ticket I was talking about. And then we have Caleb Williams for 250 yards alternate passing. We might be able to get even higher, Joseph. So I'd be curious your opinion if I should chase 275 and alternate 300 for Caleb. And then alternate Bear spread -2.5. So basically I'm thinking sweep of a leg of a field goal. You win by 3. You're the Chicago Bears, and you come away with it. There's dominance all everywhere. Cole Kmet's out of the way. Loveland gets that touchdown. Odunze eats, and it thrives. There's correlation between Odunze and Caleb Williams in the passing game. 4-leg ticket, I don't even mess with anything on the Raven side. Joseph, you've been good about, I've gotten good at, hey, I got 2 or 3 and then 1 run back. But seeing just across the slate tickets, and this 4th leg being the Bears instead of a run back, the Bears alternate spread versus a run back trying to guess, the odds boost up very nice, plus 4,200. 5 pays out near 220. What do you make of this ticket?
I think it's great. Okay. I think it's great. I think that you're getting good odds on the Colston Loveland touchdown. I think that you're being a little bit safer with the Caleb Williams play, which is probably smart. I think that this is an era in football where I think tail event players have struggled a little bit. Like, don't get me wrong. I know that Chev's been talking about how it's been a struggle out here, but really tail event plays. I was looking. We have half through 6 weeks. I did this last week. Through the first 6 weeks of the season, we had half the 300-yard passers that we had in 2015. So throughout 10 years. We are down 50% of the 300-yard games from quarterbacks, and that has ripple effects throughout everything. It causes, even if scoring is stable, yards are down.
Is that because of the kickoff rule, do you think?
I mean, potentially, but this has been a trend, right? It's really because of ADOT, right? So quarterbacks are just attempting less deep passes. Defenses, so we always talk about analytics in the context of offense. But I actually think analytics in the context of defense has been more important and more impactful to the game, because defenses have learned maybe we shouldn't give up 30-yard plays. Maybe we shouldn't be giving up these big explosive plays. Let's play shell coverage. More defenses play zone now than ever. And I think defenses are just playing off. They're allowing these completions underneath. Let's not let the best players get these targets constantly and ruin this game. So that's what defenses have kind of evolved to start doing more. And because of that, alts are just down. So I say that all to say it's probably a better, safer play to say Caleb Williams 250. And if you are, if you're not trying to be hyper aggressive, that's probably a smarter play. Now, I'm all about being hyper aggressive, and I am all about trying to get less things right and just pushing into the alt. So,
do we think there's any regression to having the 300-yard passing events occur more frequently?
Honestly, I don't know. With the way that this has happened, probably not. I mean, year to year, ADOT has been going down, right? Like over the course of the entire season, average depth of target across the entire NFL has dropped to the lowest point it's been in like 20 years right now. And because of that, that's just going to drive less yardage in games. It could mean similar scores, right? Especially with shorter fields. Because of the kickoff rule, we have shorter fields, all that good stuff. But defenses are just going to play off in general. I'm not saying that that's going to happen all the time. And I think this is a really good example of a defense that doesn't do that. They play a lot of man coverage. And so there is definitely a potential for a big yardage game here. It's just the game has changed, and it's alt bettors and tail event bettors are having to adjust to that as well.
This is the biggest thing, and I'm so glad that you said that, because we started kind of hearing the rumblings about too high, and it basically killing the explosive plays, and that's why the Chiefs had to evolve, and they became death by 1,000 paper cuts and this, that, and the third. And the interesting thing that I wanted to ask you about, one of the next matchups that we have on the sheet, with Sauce Gardner being out, what would be your approach to attacking the Jets Bengals angle? No Sauce Gardner, you've got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins having more life. Would you then assume that they're going to play more too high shell coverage to take away the potential explosives that can be generated by a guy like Jamar Chase or T. Higgins? Are we looking more into the Noah Fant territory, of course, because we're contractually obligated to mention National Tight Ends Day again? Or are you kind of looking at the Chase Brown angle? We don't have to spend too much time here because Jets Bengals is gross, and we want people to stay and watch the show, all 5 of you who are watching right now. But I want to get your opinion here. We don't have to spend a lot of time, like I said, but I just wanted to get your opinion about that play specifically.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, listeners. I don't know what something was happening with somebody's mic just for a little bit just then. Don't know whose it was. But yeah, who knows? But I think that Mason Taylor is a very interesting play. I think that he is, if Tyrod plays, I should add that. Justin Fields is something I'm not sure I'm in on anymore as much as I've been on him this year. If the GM is saying you can't complete a pass, that's a problem, right? If
it wasn't the GM, it was
the owner. Sorry, the owner is coming out saying you can't complete a pass.
GM's boss.
Yeah. That's probably not great, and I just think that it might be done for him. I'm not sure. That's really not that he's not going to play or anything. That's just really bad when the owner is saying that you can't complete a pass. If Tyrod is in this game, if Tyrod is playing, I am so in on Mason Taylor destroying what is a very bad defense against tight ends. The Bengals have been a bottom 2 defense against tight ends lately. And Mason Taylor, when Garrett Wilson's not there, he leads the team in PWOPR. So I absolutely think that this could be a great spot, assuming Tyrod Taylor's starting. If Tyrod Taylor's not starting, I don't think I'm interested. I don't even know if I'm going to touch this game if Tyrod Taylor's not starting. It's just kind of a gross game at that point. I just don't know if I'm interested.
Just contextually, the Bengals have allowed nine receiving touchdowns in the last 5 weeks. The next closest team has allowed more, just 5 over the last 5 weeks. So it's incredibly bad. Ironically, the Jets are the second. That's the team that's allowed the 5 touchdowns. So that's the reason why I was asking. I mean, obviously, we're a little. We don't want to just overplay the touchdown angle, but again, National Tight Ends Day is the gift that keeps on giving. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's always crazy until it happens. So for risking losing the rest of our audience, let's move on to a game that's much more exciting in the Bucs and Saints. You've got the Week 8 score predictions. You got Bucs 24.28 to the Saints 19.3. It says sneaky shootout potential. I'm going to step out of the way and let you guys cook because this is a game filled with goodness, and I'm just tailing whatever you guys do.
Yeah, so Joseph, it looks like your Week 8 predicted pressure table loves the Baker Mayfield bounce back. I'd like you to tell us more on that. There's K-Dot and anytime touchdown that I had mentioned before. You've got Emeka Egbuka alt receiving yards. I'm wondering where the value would be. How would we get a wider distribution for Egbuka? Because I would figure that the books would be sharp on him. Baker alt touchdown passes. Do we want alt touchdown passes because he only had 1 last week? Or would it be the alt yards bounce back? And then for run back, is it Chris Olave? Is this an Alvin Kamara game because Kendra Miller's out? Spencer Rattler, what would be the play? What do you like the most, Flo, for this game that maybe the untrained eye might not notice?
Yeah, I think that the Buccaneers are a better team than they showed on national TV last week, right? Like they are. I think the Buccaneers are pretty good, and Baker before last week was playing at an outstanding level. Like he has been playing really well. I think this is a game where the Buccaneers. They're just a better team than the Saints in general, but the Saints, I think there's some interesting angles as far as the Buccaneers blitz a lot, and they're really bad at covering running backs. Alvin Kamara, however people want to say it, is a pretty good receiving back. If people remember, I know that's a long time ago. He hasn't been getting a lot of targets this season. I think that for whatever reason in that Saints offense, they don't like targeting Alvin Kamara. I don't really know why. I think that he's a great weapon to be targeting, and I think they should target him in this game. We saw it last week with Jahmyr Gibbs, but this Buccaneers defense cannot cover running backs, and so I just think that that's an angle I'm interested in is Alvin Kamara receiving as a player. As I haven't really looked into the lines in this game too much, but as a player that has a historical receiving production, Kendra Miller might be out. Like there's a lot of reason to hope for some Alvin Kamara receiving yards here. as far as the Buccaneers go, I think that the Saints have been a pretty big pass funnel all year. They're better at defending the run than they are the pass. They definitely allow more yards through the air than they do on the ground. I think that this is a pretty good bounce back spot for Baker. And it's a spot where I like the Buccaneers spread. My model likes the Buccaneers spread. I think that the tough part is I don't know how far to push it. I didn't really get into this game as much on my Substack, but I don't know where to push this game and how far to push it. But I know that those are the angles that I'm kind of conceptually interested in, is Buccaneers spread, Baker having a pretty good game, and then Alvin Kamara is a pretty good bring back. That makes a lot of sense in theory, although I worry I might be coaching my bets a little.
And that's an important thing to note, is to not coach your bets. By that, we mean instead of paying attention to what's actually happening, you're saying, hey, this should happen, and placing the bets accordingly without any sort of numerical or mathematical advantage. Did I explain that well?
Pretty good. Yeah. And the thing is like coaching bets isn't always a bad thing, right? Like it's not always a bad thing, especially if we don't have precedent, right? If we like Greg Dulcich hasn't been playing as the starting tight end, and you know what I mean? So like, it's okay to interpolate, extrapolate and maybe think about what he might do. But when you have a historical precedent of like, okay, Alvin Kamara hasn't been getting targets this season, but he has historically been a good running back. That's like where it's a little bit more open for interpretation. But if it was, say, Nick Chubb, I don't know, or a player that never gets targeted, well, then maybe he's probably going to still never get targeted, even if the Buccaneers are bad at covering the running back.
Do you think part of it is another way to explain coaching your bets is you draw out a bet for too much of a soft landing for your ticket, where it's like, hey, this really has to hit so right.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, yeah. I mean, I think that if there's no data reason, right? Like having data reasons and saying like, okay, this player is really good against this coverage. This team runs a lot of this coverage. There's a data reason to really believe in this player. But if it's just, well, I think they're going to throw it to this player more. Okay, why? Why are they going to throw it to this player more? Is there a really good reason? And if you can back it up with math, that's even better.
The beautiful part about what you're saying is there's historical precedent with Alvin Kamara. He scored 12 touchdowns in 14 career games. I'm pulling up the receiving yardage and receptions for his career against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I remembered this a few years ago. I put in a pretty big ticket for Alvin Kamara playing against the Saints, and it was, I think it was one of the first games back from suspension where he had like 13 receptions. I played his all receptions, and he had 13 receptions for 33 yards or whatever it was. But so there's historical precedent to what you're saying. It just hasn't, in 2025 as a singularity, he hasn't caught as many passes as he normally did, or as he has during what we think could be definitely a Saints Ring of Honor career and potentially a Hall of Fame career now that he's in the 5,000 club. But all that to say, there's an element of coaching your bets, sure, but there's historical precedent to back how you feel about this player.
Yeah.
Let's touch on a game that's much more exciting to not only the Vegas market, but us in general. So why don't you guys, Joseph, take it away? Let's talk Broncos. Let's talk Cowboys. Let's talk what potential tail event outcomes we could get to without having to do anything crazy. Go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, I think this is for the people that have stuck around through our mic troubles, y'all learned this. The Cowboys are in the sweet spot. They're one of the few teams this week. There's only like 3 teams that meet the criteria for this week that are in what I call like an imposition pass funnel sweet spot, which is where the Cowboys want to pass the ball. They have this imposition to pass the ball over expectation. And the Broncos like to funnel plays to the pass, right? Because of the way the structure of their defense, they funnel teams to passing the ball more. And so you have this team that wants to pass and then a defense that wants you to pass. And that just allows for attempts. That is a world where we get more attempts. Now you also add on the fact that we have Dak playing at an MVP level, and the Broncos give up more EPA per play on pass than I think most people realize. And you end up with this really nice sweet spot of Dak potentially passing 40 plus times in this game against a team that he should have success against with this awesome receiving core. And I'm all over that. Like, I love that situation. And really all three main targets for the Cowboys have a good reason to succeed in this game. It's just going to be like, who's Pat Surtain covering? And that's going to be the basic, like, who's not going to succeed. But like Jake Ferguson gets more targets when Dak is blitzed. CeeDee Lamb gets more targets when Dak is pressured. Well, the Broncos generate a lot of pressure and the Broncos blitz a lot. So there are two big reasons why he may be targeting them in this game. And then George Pickens gets a lot of targets when the defense is in single coverage. The Broncos like playing man coverage. There's a good chance that he'll end up in some single coverage situations deep downfield. There's just a lot of reasons to like this Dallas offense. And then on the flip side, I mean, I think everyone knows that the Cowboys defense is just terrible. And Cortland Sutton's a route-based hero. Cortland Sutton needs some positive regression in his life. And really, the whole Denver offense needs to positively regress with how much they've been trying to pass the ball and kind of failing at it. Along with the fact that the Cowboys give up like a top, I think maybe the most targets to running backs in the NFL. And RJ Harvey has an insanely good targets per route run when he's on the field. So I just think that this is a kind of an all-around sweet spot for, I guess, regression for players, for overs for players. I mean, it has the highest total. It makes it, like, I get why it has the highest total, but I think this is a game that maybe should even have a slightly higher total compared to what we saw, with the Commanders and Dallas last week. So hopefully that makes sense. But the idea of this imposition, the funnels, we really should see attempts, and we should see successful attempts from Dallas. And that is going to make the Broncos also have to come back. And Dallas has a bad defense, and it hopefully will be a very entertaining game. That's what I really hope for more than anything.
Here's a question on Jake Ferguson. Any kind of all reverse line correlation. Ferguson over under 5.5 receptions to Ferguson's over under 40.5 yards receiving. Is there any angle you would attack there to get alternate, or do we think we should just be bullish on the overs for receptions and yardage?
I think, with a game in which the Cowboys are probably going to pass the ball, like the whole point, the thesis of this play is that the Cowboys are going to pass the ball a lot. Like, they're going to have a lot of attempts, which means there's a potential for a lot of receptions for any player, right? And that's where I get a little bit scared of like these inverse correlations. I really like inverse correlations when we, like, I think the Packers and the Lions are really good examples of teams that can, say, pass for 300 yards, but also go under their attempts. They like to throw the ball deep. They take these shots. That's the kind of the play they do. You don't really have, and like Jameson Williams and Golden and Dontavian Wicks are all great players to try to do this inverse correlation with. Whereas Jake Ferguson is, in my opinion, a volume player. And I think that most people would agree with that. Like, he's a player that gets his yards through getting a lot of targets. And really a lot of tight ends are, right? They're going to get their yards by just getting those targets. So I don't really like trying to do these inverse correlations on tight ends, just because that, like, you really need them to break a big play. Like that's the whole point of trying to do this inverse correlation is like, I need you to break a 60-yard touchdown. And I don't think Jake Ferguson's breaking a 60-yard touchdown anytime soon. So,
hey, that kind of ties into one of our buddies we've done some work with in the past, Andrew Cooper's yin and yang tight end theory. It's like, if you take a late round tight end, from a fantasy perspective, you want a guy that can bust a 40-yard play, and it's directly tied to their ability to generate explosive plays, which is tied to their athleticism, which is why 40 time is important for tight ends. And Jake Ferguson, unfortunately, falls short, but he is one of the most reliable options just because he's a volume play. So just to add something interesting, that I found interesting while I was listening to you guys talk, the 3 times that a tight end has been targeted 7 or more times against the Broncos resulted in 4 for 79 yards, 5 for 46, and 3 for 66 in the touchdown, with Daniel Bellinger also going for 3 for 88 in the touchdown in the same game last week. But the other guys were Tyler Warren, Aronde Gadsden, Daniel Bellinger, and Theo Johnson. So
very athletic tight ends. Yeah, like all of those are very athletic tight ends.
Yes.
So yeah, not that it's again like anything can happen, but it's just that that concept just doesn't. There's just not it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? As far as like going over your yards and under receptions for a tight end like Jake Ferguson.
Would it be more so, the players like the Alec Pierces and the Jameson Williams, where
exactly,
or the Deontay Thorntons, that kind of archetype?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's who I try to aim for when I go alt yards and under receptions.
Oh, that's such a beautiful those words are music to my ears whenever we can go under receptions and over on yards. I wanted to ask you, we hit on a point here. Dallas Cowboys have allowed the second most receptions to running backs this season behind the Seattle Seahawks. So I wanted to ask you if you were in like what it looks like for you as far as RJ Harvey goes from a reception standpoint. Is it something where you would just want to play his alt? Because I'm pretty sure his 20 yards receiving for him is going to be probably close to plus 300 if I had to guess. And I can't pull it up on the screen because it only works on my phone. But I want to know. I want to know if I'm on base here and thinking that could be a good alternative play to throw in to boost some odds here.
Yeah, I think that it's a great play to boost some odds. I think that the biggest problem with RJ Harvey is he just hasn't been on the field a lot. He's only getting like 15 to 20 snaps a game. And I fully expect him to have like a really good targets per out run in this game. Like against the coverages that the Cowboys like to run, that's cover 2 and cover 3. Yeah. RJ Harvey has a 38% targets per out run, which is really good. Like a 20% is good. A 38% is insanely good. Yeah. And so I fully expect that when he's on the field, he's going to be getting targeted. It's just, when is he going to be on the field? How much is he going to be on the field? Those are the big questions. And if he's only getting 20 snaps, I could very well see a world where he gets 5 targets, right? 6 targets, something like that. And what can he turn those into? I don't know. So I think that's just kind of how I like to think about it. And if you think that he can turn it, like based off getting, say, 5 targets, what can he turn that into? That's how I would play that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I absolutely love that. Do you guys want to, I don't, you know what? I'm not even, let's talk about Courtland Sutton. Cause I just looked at what the last game is on the docket. Thanks, Jeremiah. So let's talk about Courtland Sutton being a route-based hero. This is your note here, Jeremiah. So why don't you go ahead and lead us down the path of financial freedom with Courtland Sutton as a route-based hero?
Yeah, from Joseph's chart, make sure you are all subscribing to what he has going on. He shared his route-based heroes, and we mentioned and alluded to Zay Flowers earlier in the Bears-Ravens, but Courtland Sutton, he has a very high route-based hero score. Joseph, what goes into that, and how are we going to make sure we take advantage? Are you going to hit any, should bettors be going towards single touchdowns, alt receptions, and how would you package Courtland Sutton into a tail event play?
So I can't wait for a book. I don't care which book to offer alt fantasy points, because I'm going to be dangerous if they ever do that. But the basic idea is that we predict fantasy points given their PWOPR, which right. PWOPR is the most stable receiving metric that exists. I've like proven that. It is the most stable metric that exists. We predict it with that, and then we look at how many fantasy points they're actually scoring. And if you have a big difference there, your fantasy points either need to come up to meet your PWOPR, or your PWOPR needs to come down to meet your fantasy points. And fantasy points is more stable, so oftentimes fantasy points will come up to meet PWOPR. Hopefully that made sense. Yep. So in general, we see, like last week, there were only 4 receivers that played on the list. 2 of them were top 5 wide receivers, right? Chris Olave and AJ Brown were on the list last week. So I'm not saying that'll happen every week, but a lot of times we see this massive positive regression for players that are in good situations. And the way to play it, honestly, it is however you feel is best with the matchup, right? I don't really have a great way of playing it because it's about fantasy points, right? It could be touchdowns, it could be targets, or I guess it could be receptions, it could be receiving yards. It really can be any combination of those. And that's what's kind of annoying about it, to be honest. As the creator, that I get annoyed about it too. There's not a lot of great ways of saying predicting positive regression for just one thing, like just their receiving yards, just their receptions. I kind of have a way to do it with receptions, and that's the Coach I Was Open model. But there's just not a lot of great ways to do it with just one thing. And that's why both of these models are really good at predicting touchdowns. They're really good at predicting fantasy points, but they're not necessarily great at picking out exactly how to attack the bet. And that's kind of up to us as humans to try to figure that out.
So basically, long and short, we should expect goodness from Courtland Sutton, but we don't have a particular specified read, the route and path that'll be, but we know it's going to get somewhere.
Pretty much, yeah. I wouldn't say we know, right? We have a strong inclination.
Strong math, right? Good math.
Yeah, there's good math for Courtland Sutton to have a good game. It's just there's not a lot of direction that we've been given. And that's why, like, in DFS, this is a perfect model for DFS. And if you're playing DFS, like, I love Courtland Sutton this week. I don't know what his ownership is or anything, but I love him as a DFS play. It's just as a bettor, as a gambler, how do we play this? It's more up to us figuring it out through the coverages, through the attempts, through how many yards we expect there to be in this game, and all that kind of goodness.
Listen, I think that we really uncovered something here in this Dallas Cowboys. You alluded to it before we went on. I mean, you mentioned Judah Fortgang at Throw the Damn Ball, who's, for lack of a better term, basically like the Master Yoda to your Obi-Wan Kenobi of the alt betting. So let's go back to another one of the things you like. Coach I Was Open. We mentioned, we already talked about Courtland Sutton as a route-based hero. Let's talk about Coach I Was Open. Let's close it out with a little bit of Colts Titans talk. And one of the guys that you highlighted on the Coach I Was Open, Jeremiah, take it away. Let's talk about one of the guys that you have highlighted here.
Yeah, Joseph, we notice I have twofold questions. We see Chimere DK, week 8, Coach I Was Open, predicted 20% target share versus 12.5 actual target share. So it looks like there's good value there for DK. I'm wondering what good value will be on the other side of the Colts players. And it's funny, when I put that in the show sheet, I had, that Tyler Warren discussion had come up earlier about the alt receiving yards and how to push him because of the first half and second half splits. But Joseph, is there anything you notice data-wise that pops up when a divisional underdog faces their opponent for the second time in the season? Is this a tail event that we look for at a depressed price where the market is bearish? And it's funny enough, I do feel like we have process-wise, I'm asking this question, but funny enough, in the process, it seems like the Titans and the Jets keep up coming in these kind of tail event plays because the depressed prices are there. But is there something to that? It's just kind of something that stands out to me that just feels a little bit funny about this game. That second time that the Titans, they're dogs, they're division dogs, and they're getting the Colts for the second time. Is there anything that you look for in particular where that division dog plays up to its competition?
Yeah, so I'll try to keep this quick, but the first thing is that I don't have any data on, like, that's a hyper specific scenario, and often, like, that sample is probably too small to gain anything too meaningful from it anyways. But I don't have any data on that, and I would encourage anyone to go look into that and figure that out. But I think that anything can happen in the NFL any given week, and I think that's really important to always remember. Like, as much as we think we may understand the games and the players and the coaches and what they're going to do, anything can happen any given week. And that's what makes a lot of these tail events so interesting and putting just a little bit on them. Because, like, okay, what if the Titans do win? Like, 14-point underdogs have won before. Just saying. Like, it's happened before. Not that it happens all the time, but it's happened before. So what if they do win? You put like a 250 Cam Ward and a Titans win, and you can make back, you make a lot of money. You know what I mean? But I do think that this is a spot in which I'm very there's just no reason for that to happen. And not that it can't, because it very well can. And I'm sure because I'm saying it can, it's gonna. But Daniel Jones has an awesome predicted pressure matchup. Jonathan Taylor has an awesome matchup. This is a great spot for Tyler Warren. I'm sure that this is somehow an awesome spot for everybody on the team. And I very well think that if there's an angle that I'm interested in this game, as far as the spread's concerned, it would be trying to attack somehow the Titans keeping this game closer than they should, just because they've looked so bad. That doesn't mean they're always going to look bad. And so this one's a little bit tougher to talk about, but that's the basic idea that I think is that the spread is very big. I tend to think every team in the NFL is an NFL team, just saying. And any given week, anything can happen. I think that people always say any given week, right? In the NFL, because anything can happen. And that means just saying the Titans can beat the Colts. Not saying they will, but they can.
Listen, hey, look, we're not going to say it too many more times. These are the keys to actually putting together massive tickets with massive returns with very little. You just have to have a story that lines up to make sure that you're able to profit. Before we get out of here, gentlemen, Jeremiah, tell us where everybody can find your work.
Yeah, Player Profiler with Chev. We do defenses and kickers. I can't promote that enough because we really start on our path. We do it Sunday night. We talk about the opening lines, who's the favorite. We follow certain trends. And then, of course, come Friday night, we have the full story put together. And then, of course, Chev and I were on Trade Gods on Tuesday nights, and it gets posted usually that evening on Player Profiler. So a couple other platforms, but we'll just keep it simple to that one right now.
Joseph, brother.
Koala TY Stats. You can find me on Twitter and Substack, and I hang out here and do some shows with y'all. So it's a good time.
Listen, my favorite hour of the week, every single week, is the P-Whopper buy sell with you and Casey. It helps me start to frame everything in terms of my rankings and everything for the week. I want to throw your Substack up because again, this is incredibly valuable information. If you want to find more of me, you can find me at the FFD Fantasy with the Redraft channel, or here on the FF Dynasty. We'll be more present once the season is over with. If you want to find anything else I'm working on, follow me at Chev90 on Twitter. The Twitter X. This is Joseph's Substack and also the Patreon. I don't have that pulled up. Actually, I do have it pulled up. I lied. But
it is okay. But thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I've got the predicted pressure table pulled up. So I didn't want to show too much of that because again, this is incredibly hard work that you're putting into this, and the article on PFF that comes out every single week on basically by 2:00 on Friday.
Yeah, I try to by 5:00 on Friday. Yeah,
by 5:00 on Friday. Yeah, right before you're going to happy hour. You can bookmark that and read it. When you're dumping out all your happy hour nachos. This has been another episode of Bet on It. I'm Chev. That's Joseph. That's Coach, aka Jeremiah. We will see you next week.